Oh wow, look who dropped in. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. If this is your first stop, be sure to subscribe and send this video to someone you like, or someone you want to like you. And let me know which city or country you're watching from. I read your comments like letters from old friends. Let's begin, shall we? I never thought she was someone who could betray me, until a 4 a.m. phone call destroyed everything I believed to be true. Don't open it, Colin. Please, she begged, her voice raw and shaking. But it was already too late. One message, one picture. 8 years of marriage shattered in a single instant. And that was only the beginning. What I learned in the days that followed made the affair seem almost trivial. They say the deepest cuts come from those we love most. They say love blinds you, but no one tells you how to cope once the illusion is gone, and the truth is all you can see. My name is Colin Rhodes. I'm 40. Half a year ago, the woman I had shared nearly a decade of my life with betrayed me in ways that still leave me stunned. Even now, 6 months later, I still remember the vibration of my phone rattling the nightstand, the screen lighting up the darkness of our bedroom. Jenna's name glowing, her voice on the line, panicked and tearful, begging me not to look. But I had already seen it. Every bit of it. Photos, a video, inarguable evidence of her with a man I didn't even recognize. His name was Cameron, a bartender covered in tattoos, 10 years younger than me. Apparently he gave her something I never could. Colin, please, she cried. This isn't how things were supposed to happen. It was a mistake. Don't watch the rest. But I watched anyway. Curiosity is its own punishment, and I couldn't stop myself even before she finished speaking. I played the video while she was still on the phone. The image burned into my mind. Jenna, in lingerie I'd never seen, staring at him with a hunger she hadn't shown me in years. I'd been pulling double duty, working full-time at the firm during the week and taking on freelance drafting jobs on the weekend. All of it to dig us out of the financial mess she had secretly buried us in, debt she'd hidden until creditors came knocking at our door. This was how she repaid me. That night I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I hung up, packed a bag, and walked out. By sunrise, I'd signed a lease on a rundown apartment on the other side of town. And now, after half a year of court battles, I sit here, on a thrift store couch, staring at wedding photos, trying to pinpoint the exact moment the woman I loved became someone capable of this destruction. What I didn't realize then, what I couldn't have known, was that Cameron wasn't just some fling. Their story went back further. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a long-concealed affair, carefully hidden, dating back years. And fate has a cruel sense of timing, because just when I thought I'd unearthed the worst of it, I stumbled upon the journal. An old leather diary, worn at the corners, sitting untouched on my coffee table. Its aged cover seemed to challenge me to open it. I found it while unpacking some books, wedged between volumes on architectural design. Definitely not mine. The writing inside was neat, graceful, undeniably a woman's hand. Jenna must have unknowingly packed it with my things during the chaos of the split. For 3 days I left it untouched. Part of me wanted to send it back without opening it. But the other part, the one still seething with betrayal, won out. When I finally cracked it open, the first page took my breath away. April 18th, 2015. Ran into sea at Jake's tonight. It's been ages. That old spark's still there when he touches me. Colin has no idea about our past. Better to keep it that way. Cameron, the same man she cheated with. She'd known him for years. That entry, it was dated 2 years before we even said our vows. My hands shook as I turned the pages. She'd never stopped seeing him. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a hidden second life, buried beneath our shared years. December 10th, 2021, Colin's stuck at work again, meeting C at our usual spot. He makes me feel things Colin just doesn't anymore. The usual spot. They had a routine. I slammed the journal shut, pacing the floor. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of love and promises, built on deception. Every holiday, every anniversary, every whispered "I love you," all while she was living a lie. Was he her insurance plan? Her escape hatch? Her adrenaline hit when life with me felt too dull? My phone vibrated. A message from Jenna. We need to talk about the house. Lawyer says you're being unreasonable. Right, the house. Just one more front in our ongoing war. Even after everything, I'd proposed a fair split, despite discovering she'd drained our shared account 2 days after I moved out. $25,000. Vanished. When I asked her about it, she said it was for living expenses. But the bank statements told a different story. 5-star hotels, designer shopping sprees, lavish dinners. She hadn't only betrayed my heart. She'd gutted my trust, emptied my savings, and dismantled the life I thought we were building, one lie at a time. I was just about to answer when a knock cut through the quiet. At the door stood Mr. Grant, my elderly neighbor, well into his 70s, holding a steaming container in both hands. "Noticed your lights on again past midnight," he said, offering the dish. "Thought you might need something warm and homemade." I invited him in, thankful for the interruption from the thoughts that had been spiraling all night. Henry Grant was not one for pleasantries. A former Marine, now with snow-white hair and eyes that bore the gravity of a hard-lived life. He'd buried his first wife after a long fight with cancer, and his second had left him for a man half his age. I motioned to the journal lying open on the table. Found her diary. He gave a long exhale. "Tough read?" "Years of dishonesty," I said. "Turns out the affair started before we even got married." He lowered himself slowly into the armchair, hands folded on his lap, the skin worn and lined with age. "When Diane ran off with her tennis coach," he said, "I spent months trying to wrap my head around it. Nearly lost my mind." "Did you ever figure out why?" I asked. He offered a tight, bitter smile. "Some people are like voids, son. No matter how much love you pour into them, it vanishes." He nodded at the journal. "That book, it's painful, yeah, but it's also a gift. It shows you're not imagining things. More importantly, none of this was your fault." As he spoke, my gaze dropped to his hand, the wedding ring still on his finger. I asked why he still wore it. He rotated it slowly between his fingers. "It reminds me," he said, "not of what I lost, but of what I'm worth. Loyalty matters. But self-respect, that's non-negotiable." After he left, I picked up my phone and sent Jenna a message. "The offer still stands. I'm not changing it." Then I turned back to the journal. Dozens of entries still unread, each one a landmine. But for the first time since that gutting call at 4 a.m., I felt ready to face the rest. Rain pelted the windshield as I parked outside what used to be our home, now just hers. Jenna's latest barrage of texts had promised she just wanted to talk, followed by a string of 15 missed calls. But I wasn't here to mend anything. I came for the truth. Clutching the journal, its edges worn from too many readings, I stepped out. Each page had unveiled a new betrayal. Cameron hadn't been the first. There had been 2 others before him. The woman I'd trusted my life to was a stranger. Before I could knock, Jenna opened the door. Her eyes were puffy, but whether from real tears or makeup smudges, I couldn't say. The journal had taught me to doubt everything, including her sorrow. "Colin, thank God," she said, stepping forward. "I've been so scared." I stepped back. "Don't." My tone was ice, controlled. I raised the journal slightly. "Found this while unpacking." The color drained from her face. She stumbled back into the foyer, catching herself against the wall. "That's private," she whispered. "So was our marriage," I replied. "Didn't stop you from sharing that, did it?" I followed her into the living room, the place where I had once dropped to one knee, where we spoke of futures and forever. Now, it felt hollow. "It's not what it looks like," she started. The words were so worn out I almost laughed. 8 years, Jenna." My voice stayed calm, but there was steel beneath it. "I broke myself trying to pay off your hidden debts, and the whole time, you were with him." I set the journal on the coffee table. "You and Cameron were together before we were even married." "It wasn't serious," she said, barely audible. "Don't insult me." I rarely raised my voice, but the storm outside seemed to answer the rising fury inside me. "April 18th, 2015, I said. "You wrote about seeing C at Jake's bar, your college ex." She dropped onto the couch looking stunned. "That was years ago, Colin. It didn't mean anything. Nothing ever does with you, does it? Not the vows. Not our home. Not even the life we built. Tears began sliding down her face. I'm sorry. I made a mistake, but I still love you. No, I said flatly. You don't get to say that anymore. She blinked hard, then her voice shifted. Urgent, calculated. What do you want, Colin? Do you want me to grovel, beg? We can fix this. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. $25,000? She froze. What? You emptied our savings, I said, cold and clear. I want it back. I needed that money, she said, her tone now edged with determination. For your clean slate? With Cameron? I replied, raising an eyebrow. Strange. He doesn't look too interested anymore. I unlocked my phone and swiped through the screen. Here, take a look, I said, holding it up. The screen glowed with a series of messages, my conversation with Cameron. Once he realized you were stringing him along too, he didn't take it so well. You talked to him? She asked, stunned. Panic flickered across her face. Man to man, I answered. He honestly thought you were the helpless wife, stuck in a nightmare marriage with an abusive control freak. I slipped the phone back into my pocket. You really missed your calling, Jenna. With imagination like that, you'd have crushed it as a novelist. She shot to her feet, grief instantly replaced by rage. You had no right. I had every right, I interrupted, stepping in closer, my voice low and measured. You dragged him into our marriage. You started this. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. The divorce is already in motion. The house hits the market next week. Give back the money, or I start sending selected passages from your journal to your parents, your boss, and every mother in your sister's parenting circle. For a brief second, her polished exterior crumbled. The cold calculation I'd only read in her writing now stared back at me in the flesh. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I turned to leave, then halted at the door. And that necklace you're wearing, the diamond pendant? The one you claimed was from your mother? She froze. Cameron bought it. You wrote about it. I want that back too. As I stepped outside into the rain, a strange sense of relief washed over me. No big speech, no tidy ending. But for the first time since that 4 a.m. phone call, I wasn't the one being played. I was finally steering the ship. You look like hell, Megan said, dropping a pile of blueprints onto my desk. 2 weeks had passed since that final showdown with Jenna. 14 straight days of attorneys, appraisals, and nights where sleep never came. I'd buried myself in work at the office, taking every extra project I could get my hands on. Thanks, I muttered with a dry smile. Really know how to cheer a guy up. Megan Reynolds had been my colleague for 3 years. She was smart, ruthlessly efficient, and exuded a quiet authority that kept most co-workers at arm's length. Warmth wasn't usually part of her repertoire, which made her concern catch me off guard. I've heard what's been going on, she said, leaning casually on the edge of my desk. Divorces aren't exactly private matters around here. She gave a slight shrug. Also, I saw the listing. Your house is up, huh? I rubbed my temples. She's stalling on the sale, claims she can't afford to move yet. That's not your burden to carry, Megan said flatly. Her bluntness felt like oxygen after months of walking on eggshells with attorneys. She's a grown woman. Let her solve her own mess. She turned as if to leave, then glanced back. A few of us are getting drinks later. You should come. Might do you some good. Before I could respond, my phone vibrated. Cameron's name lit the screen. I hadn't heard from him since our last conversation. The message was brief. We need to talk. Jenna's telling people you hit her. A knot formed in my stomach. I have to go, I told Megan, grabbing my coat. Everything okay? She asked, her tone shifting. No, I said, but I'm working on it. I drove straight to the bar where Cameron worked. It was quiet at that hour, just a few regulars scattered along the counter with drinks half gone. Cameron stood behind the bar, drying glasses. When he saw me, his expression tightened. Didn't think you'd show, he said evenly. When someone accuses me of violence, I don't shrug it off. Without a word, he slid his phone across the bar toward me. She's been texting me, he explained. Wants me to back up her version. Says you shoved her the last time you met. He gestured toward the phone. See for yourself. I scrolled through the thread. Her messages painted me as volatile and dangerous, cornering her, pushing her over a financial dispute. "That's a lie," I said, handing the phone back. "I know," he said quietly. "I see her clearly now." There was guilt in his eyes, subtle, but there. "Look, when she told me you two were already finished, that you were distant, always buried in work, I believed her." I let out a bitter laugh. I was working 2 jobs to pay off the debts she hid from me. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Here I was defending myself to the man who helped destroy my marriage. "Yeah, I get that now." He seemed genuinely remorseful. Then his voice lowered. "She's not just manipulative, Colin," he said softly. "She's dangerous." When I told her it was over, she retaliated with a threat to report me to my employer for supposedly stealing from the register. As I stepped out of the bar, my phone lit up with a new message from Mr. Grant. "Just saw your wife at your place. She's got a couple of guys with her. Looks like they're hauling stuff out. Thought you should know." Jenna was clearly clearing out the house in advance of the sale. I pressed down on the gas pedal, my decision hardening in that moment. This wasn't just the fallout of a broken marriage anymore. Now, it was about confronting someone willing to destroy everything in her path to shield herself. By the time I arrived, 2 movers were loading our dining table into the back of a truck. Jenna stood outside with a clipboard, giving orders like a battlefield commander. "Put that down right now," I said as I pulled in behind the truck, voice steady. Across the street, Mr. Grant stood on his porch with his arms folded, quietly watching the scene unfold. Jenna turned. For a second she looked startled, but it quickly gave way to defiance. "This is my furniture too, Colin." "Not until the divorce is finalized," I told her flatly. I took out my phone. "I've already spoken to my attorney. The police are being notified." The movers exchanged looks, clearly thrown off. "Ma'am," one of them said hesitantly, "you told us everything was settled legally." "It is," Jenna snapped. "My husband's just being impossible. Nothing new." "Then let them see the deed," I said calmly. "Show them who actually owns the house." Her eyes narrowed to slits. "Fine. Bring the table back inside," she barked at the movers. "But the bedroom set's mine. I bought it before we even got married." "Not exactly," I said, stepping in. "We bought that together for our first anniversary, and I still have the receipt." The movers carefully returned the table to the ground, clearly wanting no part in our dispute. "Listen," the taller one said, raising his hands. "We're just here to do a job. You two work this out and call us when it's resolved." Once the truck pulled away, Jenna spun on me, rage pouring from her in waves. "You're incredible," she spat. "First you freeze the bank accounts, then block the sale of the house, and now this." "I locked the accounts after you withdrew $25,000 without saying a word," I reminded her. "And the sale will go through as soon as you sign the document confirming your 40% share. Not 50. "I earned half," she screamed. 8 years, Colin. 8 years of you lying and betraying me." I stepped in closer. "Did you mention to your new boyfriend that you've been spreading rumors that I hit you?" Because I showed him the security footage from that meeting, the video that proves I never came closer than 3 feet. Her face drained of color. "You didn't." "I did," I said evenly. "He's seen it. So has your HR department and my attorney. Those cameras had been installed years ago after a burglary. I never imagined they'd someday be used to protect me from my own wife." That's when Mr. Grant stepped down from his porch, his calm presence cutting through the tension. "Everything all right here, Colin?" "All fine, Mr. Grant," I said. Jenna was just leaving. She shot both of us a withering glare. "This isn't the end." "It actually is," I said coolly. "The locks have been changed, legally, as part of the divorce proceedings when one party vacates the home. You can collect the rest of your things through my lawyer." She didn't respond. She just stormed to her car and drove off. Mr. Grant placed a hand on my shoulder, a steady, reassuring gesture. "You've got guts, son." "I didn't really have a choice," I said. "She's trying to take everything before the divorce is finalized." He shook his head slowly. "This isn't just about money. It's about holding your ground without losing your integrity. Most men in your shoes would have lost control, screamed, made a scene." I watched her car disappear around the corner. "Yelling never solves anything." He gave a thoughtful nod. But going it alone doesn't solve much either." He motioned toward his house. "Come by. My daughter's visiting. She's a divorce attorney. might be able to offer some perspective. As we crossed the street together, my phone buzzed again. A message from Megan. Still up for drinks tonight? And for the first time in a long while, something inside shifted, something warmer than anger, cutting through all the bitterness. Maybe even a spark of hope. That's the full train wreck, I said at last, setting my beer bottle down with deliberate care. The bar Megan had chosen was unusually calm for a Friday. Just a few weary professionals scattered around, unwinding from the work week. Across the table, Megan regarded me thoughtfully, her wine glass poised just below her lips. You've been through a lot. Still in the thick of it, I said with a resigned exhale. Word had already made its way up the ranks at my firm. Jenna's false claims that I'd been abusive were circulating. Taylor had scheduled a meeting on Monday to address the matter. Taylor's an idiot, Megan said bluntly. Anyone who's worked with you knows you're not that guy. Her direct support caught me off guard. We'd always kept things professional, occasionally butting heads over designs, but this version of Megan, warm and fiercely loyal, was something new. Thanks for agreeing to meet me, I said, gesturing to the table between us. I haven't exactly been putting myself out there lately. I get it, she replied, absent-mindedly tracing circles on the rim of her glass. I went through something kind of similar a few years back. My fiancé cheated with my roommate. I came home from a business trip a day early and walked right into it. I'm sorry you went through that. She gave a nonchalant shrug. It's ancient history now, but I remember how it messed with my head, made me question everything I thought was real. That's why I pulled you out tonight. You need a reminder there's more to life than this disaster. As we kept talking, I became uncomfortably aware of how isolated I'd become since the split. My life had shrunk into a loop: work, my apartment, legal meetings, a gray, suffocating cycle I hadn't broken in months. Then my phone buzzed, a message from Jenna. We need to meet, no attorneys, just us. Megan noticed my shift in expression immediately. Something wrong? Jenna wants to talk, I said. And you're actually considering it because? She asked, eyebrow raised. I hesitated. I don't know. Part of me wants answers. Closure, maybe. There's still so much I don't understand. Megan leaned across the table, her voice low and serious. She's accused you of abuse, Colin. If you meet her alone, that's exactly what she wants. No witnesses, just your word against hers. Her words landed with force. She was right. Jenna wasn't looking for reconciliation. She was setting a trap. You're right, I said, locking my screen and setting the phone face down. I keep reacting like I'm still her husband, but I need to protect myself now. Draw clear lines, Megan advised. My mom always told me when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Our conversation drifted from there: movies, hiking, architecture. For the first time in months, I wasn't trapped in the role of Colin Rhodes, the man going through hell. I was just a guy having a drink with someone who got it. When I walked her to her car, I asked something that had been tugging at me all evening. Why did you reach out? I asked. We were never particularly close before. Megan smiled as she unlocked her car, her keys clinking softly in her hand. Let's just say I can spot a good man, even when he's at his lowest. Before I could respond, she leaned in and kissed me lightly on the cheek. Don't reply to Jenna, she said. And don't overthink tonight. It was just two coworkers having a drink. As her car disappeared down the street, I realized something incredible. I hadn't thought about Jenna or the betrayal for nearly 2 straight hours. It was the longest I'd gone without that weight in my chest since it all began. Erica, Mr. Grant's daughter, was nothing like I'd pictured. In her 50s, with streaks of silver in her dark hair and sharp, perceptive eyes, she had the no-nonsense energy of someone who had survived real battles and come out stronger. So she's accusing you of abuse and trying to grab joint assets before the divorce is finalized, Erica summarized, closing her notebook after hearing everything over dinner. That's the situation, I confirmed, finishing off my coffee. You were smart to put up those cameras, she said, nodding in approval. Most men don't think that far ahead when things start unraveling. Mr. Grant's chest swelled slightly with pride. Colin's an architect, always 3 steps ahead. Two would have done it, I said with a smirk. Might have seen the affair coming. Erica gave a decisive shake of her head. That's not on you. What matters is how you're responding now. She slid a polished business card across the table toward me. My standard rate is $300 an hour, she said evenly. But since you're a friend of my dad's, I'll take your case at half. I opened my mouth to protest, but she silenced me with a swift flick of her hand. I specialize in high-conflict divorces, she went on. What your wife's doing, fabricated allegations, draining joint accounts, trying to seize assets, it's all textbook escalation. You need someone who knows what's coming before she makes her move. And what is the next move? I asked. Her jaw stiffened slightly. She'll try to cut you off from your support system, turn friends against you, maybe even attempt to jeopardize your career. Erica's tone was sharp, her demeanor all business. Women like her, when they feel cornered, they can get unpredictable. Her words hit close to home, reinforcing suspicions that had been gnawing at me for weeks. Jenna had already started whispering into the ears of people at my firm, painting herself as the victim in our unraveling marriage. If I hadn't had the footage from the security cameras at home, her lies could have ruined me. I'll be in touch with your office Monday, I told Erica, standing. Mr. Grant walked me to the door. Erica's the real deal, he said, a father's pride clear in his voice. Went through hell herself about 15 years ago, turned it into something with purpose. Outside, I breathed in the crisp evening air, letting it ground me. Thanks again, I said, for everything, supporting me after Jenna's meltdown and for tonight's dinner. He gave my shoulder a firm pat. That's what neighbors are for, he said. The good ones, anyway. My phone buzzed with a message from Megan. Megan, so, how'd it go with the lawyer daughter? I smiled in spite of myself. I'd told her about the dinner invite as soon as it came up. Her curiosity hadn't felt nosy, it had felt genuine. Me, went really well. Pretty sure I've found my attorney. Her reply came almost immediately. Megan, feel like celebrating? Redwood Trail tomorrow? Supposed to be perfect weather. As I stood there on Mr. Grant's front porch, something shifted inside me. For months, I'd been stuck in a loop, fending off Jenna's manipulations and scrambling to defend myself. Always reacting, but this felt like a step forward, a conscious choice. Me, sounds perfect. Mr. Grant, still beside me, noticed the change. He let out a quiet chuckle. That look on your face, it's like the tide's finally turning. Maybe it is, I said softly. Maybe it is. That night, walking back to my apartment, something inside me felt different. The weight of betrayal hadn't vanished, but alongside it, something new had taken root. Hope, and for the first time in months, that felt like enough. The Redwood Trail wound gracefully through towering, old-growth trees, sunlight streaming down in golden threads from above. Megan led the way, her stride sure and practiced. So, she called back, stepping over a fallen log covered in moss. Your ex's lawyer finally budged on the property stuff? I followed close behind, slightly short of breath. Reluctantly, yeah, Erica's a force, especially when she's armed with that security footage. The last 3 weeks had flown by. Erica had taken command of the situation, filing motions, shielding my assets, locking down my legal footing. Faced with clear evidence that tore apart Jenna's false claims, her lawyer had shifted gears fast. Megan paused at a vista where the trees parted to reveal a wide, breathtaking valley. Beautiful, isn't it? She said. I come here when work gets overwhelming. It's incredible, I replied, though my attention was more drawn to her silhouette against the forest backdrop than the view itself. Since that dinner, things between us had quietly evolved. Weekend hikes like this, quick lunches that had nothing to do with the office. Text messages about everything but court dates and project deadlines. Normal moments. Reminders that life was about more than just recovering. It was also about what came after. She turned toward me, her expression thoughtful. Meant to ask you something, she said. That pendant Jenna wore the day you confronted her. You said Cameron gave it to her? I blinked, caught off guard. Yeah, I found it mentioned in one of her journal entries. Why? Megan hesitated, then pulled out her phone. I saw something on Instagram yesterday, she said, unlocking the screen. I thought you should take a look. She passed me her phone. On the screen was a post from a local jewelry shop. A photo appeared on the screen, an elegant diamond pendant identical to the one Jenna used to wear, captioned, "Cheers to the future Mrs. Parker." Hashtag, #, Cameron and Jenna forever. My gut twisted. Jenna was engaged. To Cameron. Already. And we weren't even legally divorced yet. "I wasn't sure if I should show you," Megan said softly. I handed her phone back, more surprised by my own composure than by the actual post. "No, it's okay, I needed to see it." "Are you really okay?" she asked. I paused, letting the questions settle before answering. Half a year ago, Jenna's betrayal had shattered me, left scars I wasn't sure would ever heal. Seeing this should have reopened those old wounds. But oddly it didn't. Instead, I felt a release, like a weight had lifted. "I think I am," I replied slowly. "They're well matched. Two people whose relationship was born from lies. That's consequence enough." Megan studied my face, searching for any flicker of doubt. "You mean that?" "I do," I said, gazing out at the thick forest ahead. 6 months ago, it had felt like my world was ending. Now it felt more like the beginning of something new. Megan smiled, a gentle, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "That's what healing looks like, Colin." We continued along the trail, our conversation shifting to other things. I talked about an upcoming pitch to a developer interested in my eco-friendly housing project. She mentioned the plans for her brother's wedding in Napa next month. "You could come with me," she offered, a bit tentative. "As friends," she added quickly. Her words hung in the air, light, but filled with quiet meaning. Half a year ago, I couldn't even imagine letting someone in again. Now, walking beside a woman who had only ever shown me honesty and care, I felt ready to try. "I'd like that," I said. "Friends, for now." The smile she gave me in return made every ounce of pain feel like part of the path that led me here. As we started our descent, I became aware of the ring on my finger, still there out of habit. But now it felt strange, like it belonged to someone else, to another life. It was time to take it off, not because Jenna had moved forward, but because I finally had. 1 year later, the sharp crack of a gavel rang through the courtroom. "Divorce granted," Judge Michaels declared. "Assets will be divided as outlined in the settlement." Just like that, it was over. After 18 long months of legal battles, endless delays, and Jenna's manipulations, our marriage was officially dissolved. Erica placed a comforting hand on my shoulder as we gathered the paperwork. "Congratulations," she said. "You're finally free." Outside, the courthouse steps gleamed in the golden light of early autumn. Megan waited by her car, calm and steady as always, my constant through the storm. Over the past year, our friendship had grown into something deeper. We took things slow, both of us still carrying the weight of our histories. "How does it feel?" she asked as I walked over. "Honestly, a little underwhelming," I admitted. "All that time and drama, and it ends with a stamp and a signature." She reached out and laced her fingers through mine. "That's how most chapters end," she said. "It's what comes next that matters." So what came next? A future I couldn't have pictured that night Jenna woke me at 4 a.m., sobbing, the night my life unraveled. Now that future stood open and uncharted. Yes, it was uncertain, but it brimmed with possibility. We'd sold the house 6 months earlier. The proceeds were split as agreed. Jenna had tried hard to grab a larger share, but Erica's evidence about the drained accounts, the false claims, turned the case in my favor. I used my half to buy a small bungalow near the city. No ghosts there. Just clean walls and a clean slate. My phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Grant. "Good news, all done." I typed back, "Thank you for everything." From that first confrontation in my driveway to the dinners where he listened without judgment, he'd stood by me. He became the steady, grounding presence I never had, a mentor who told hard truths without flinching. Megan and I walked to a nearby cafe and found a spot outside. That diamond necklace Jenna had flaunted, Cameron's grand gesture, had apparently become a source of drama. Word from mutual acquaintances was that Jenna had caught him cheating just weeks after their engagement went public. I couldn't help but feel the universe had a sense of irony. "What's on your mind?" Megan asked, watching me closely. "Just thinking about karma," I said, "and how life gives us second chances." Her smile, unguarded, warm, and familiar, meant more than anything right now. Speaking of second chances, she said, remember that coastal project I told you about? I nodded. They approved our proposal, we got it. Megan and I had spent countless months developing our vision, a self-sustaining neighborhood where people could live in harmony with nature. Now, at last, it stood finished. The project was a seamless fusion of my background in architectural engineering and her intuitive talent for weaving greenery into urban spaces. It marked the first time we had collaborated professionally. This is incredible, I said, genuinely elated. So when do we dive in? I asked. Whenever we're ready, she answered, her eyes locking with mine. No hurry. Those two simple words carried an entire world of meaning. No demands, no hidden motives, just sincerity. A partnership built on trust and deep respect. Hand in hand, we made our way back to our cars. And that's when the realization struck me. This journey wasn't about moving on from Jenna anymore. It was about fully stepping into something authentic, balanced, and lasting. 2 years had gone by, and the cabin still perched peacefully above the glistening lake below. A thin veil of morning fog drifted across the water's glassy surface. I sat out on the wooden deck, a warm mug of coffee in hand, watching the sunrise paint the sky in soft golds and blush pinks. Quite the view, Megan said, joining me with her own steaming cup. Worth every penny, I replied. She had come up with the idea, a quiet weekend getaway to celebrate the completion of our latest coastal development. The project had generated buzz, new contracts, and even murmurs of founding our own architectural firm. Hard to believe it's already been 2 years, she mused, leaning forward onto the railing. Since the split? 2 years, 3 months, and 12 days, I said with a playful grin. Not that I'm counting. Her laugh rippled into the still air, light and natural. Spoken like a textbook architect. I set down my cup and gently wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her closer. What we'd built, both professionally and personally, hadn't been hasty. It had grown slowly, with patience and care. We hadn't tried to replace what was lost. We had chosen each other, quietly but deliberately, day after day. Got a text from Mr. Grant this morning, I said. Oh? She asked. Erica's taking him to Florida next month. He says he's finally ready to trade winter coats for sunshine. We're going to miss him, she said, a touch of fondness in her voice. He's earned the peace, I agreed. He also offered us his house, I added. Said he'd rather sell it to someone who'd appreciate the quality. She turned to me, intrigued. You're actually considering it? I am, I said, taking both her hands in mine. It's a great area, solid structure, lots of room for expansion. She caught the layered meaning instantly, her eyes lighting up with amusement. Colin Rhodes, she said with a knowing smile. Are you hinting at something? Maybe, I teased. But first, I reached into my pocket and brought out a small velvet box I'd been carrying for weeks, waiting for the right moment to appear. I want to ask you to marry me. Her breath caught as I opened the box to reveal a sapphire ring, deep and rich, mirroring the color of her eyes, cradled in a sleek platinum band. Not the oversized diamond I'd once given Jenna. This was understated, purposeful, designed for someone who valued meaning over display. I've known what empty promises look like, I said softly. But now, I understand what love really is. It's truth. It's mutual respect. It's being each other's safe place. It's you, Megan. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she gave the smallest, most heartfelt nod. When she whispered yes, it was nearly lost in the breeze. I slipped the ring onto her finger, and a profound calm settled over me. That 4 a.m. phone call years ago, the one that shattered my world, no longer held power over me. It was just one chapter, and this was the beginning of a new one. A chapter written with intention, filled with promise and clarity I never imagined possible. Later, as we walked the lakeshore together, speaking dreams aloud and shaping the life ahead of us, I felt a quiet gratitude toward Jenna for making it so unmistakably clear what I didn't want, and, in doing so, illuminating what I truly needed. Some lessons come at a steep cost, but if you can endure them, what they reveal is worth everything.